Welcome back to the Flow Show with Kelly and Michelle. And today we have something extraordinary. We have something very, very special for you. Kelly, will you please introduce our amazing guest?
I am very honored to do that, Michelle. And we are so excited because we've been able to offer you all such great content on the Flow Show, getting you information as to what we've noticed clinically, what we've seen in our practices in regards to helping lymphatics and what is influencing the lymphatics. And honestly, here is the Charlie Angels of the lymph. Come on, ladies. Come on, ladies. Do it with me. They hate me so much right now, y'all. You have no idea. But here we are. We feel like the Charlie's Angels of lymph. And while the person in the box is called Charlie, we feel like that's actually Desiree is the Charlie that we talk to all the time when we have a question and need to know what the real answer is. And so Desiree De Spong has a lengthy resume that breadths from research to clinic to right now really doing a lot of growth, business growth with FLOWpresso, and doing most of that in regards to research to get the best units out there and to train us in the best way possible. So Desiree De Spong is here from New Zealand in your house, living room, car, wherever you are watching this, to be able to entice you and explain to you the research behind everything that Michelle and I have been talking about. No pressure, Desiree, but bring the scientific
yes,
component to it.
Yes, to all the stuff that we've been dealing with.
So welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you to you both, and to doing an amazing job in getting the story out there. It's such an area of health that's not spoken well about, so it's fantastic. Thank you for you guys being involved as the lymph guru and lymph queen. So today we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to talk about some of the things you've talked about in regards to breast health awareness this month. I'm very big on not using the C word because I think bringing awareness to that is, if you know much about energy, it's attracting to a reality where we just want breast health awareness. And you guys have been doing some amazing podcasts on breast health and what people can do to actually look after themselves. And so first of all, I'm just going to do a little bit of research to back up some of the things that you've mentioned, and because a lot of people don't believe there is research out there, especially when it comes to our bras that we wear or our product that we put on our skin. And then we'll talk a bit more about FLOWpresso and the research we're doing here in New Zealand for those that want a little bit more guts to why you want to buy FLOWpresso as to something that's available from China, for example. So first of all, let's talk about the bra. So interestingly, over 80% of women wear the wrong size bra for starters. So that's one of the biggest issues that we have because of where it sits. So I know, Michelle, we were talking about the puff and all this over here, how it often is wedging in and it's misplaced. But, there's so much more out there. Some of it's controversial, this research, but they found that when you wore a bra 24 hours a day, you had a 125% chance of getting breast cancer as opposed to just wearing it 8 hours a day. So it increased your actual chances of dealing with it as an issue. So, and some of the other things that they've found, and these are studies usually done in Europe. So in France and Zurich, for example, they found even bras will impede lymphatic flow. So the fact of the pressure and the holding is, again, keeping the fluid in the breast tissue, which, for us can be an issue from the health of the overall breast. And then in France, they did a 15-year study. Now, admittedly, this was between 18 to 35-year-old women. So sorry, guys, we're out. But they found that when you wore a bra, it actually reduced the muscle strength in the pec area. And it did nothing to reduce back pain. Now, apparently, it's over 45. It's not going to be such a good option to try this now later on in life. But that's why they're trying to encourage young women now to not wear bras. It's quite it's actually not, a whole lot of people wear them thinking it helps with their back and wears them thinking it helps them from drooping, but it actually isn't the truth. And I actually saw really funny the other day, and it said, I stopped wearing a bra so I could take the wrinkles out of my face. So in other words, the dropping. Just to putting a light note to all this. So let's look at the other thing. In 1999, 30 medical...
Just to interrupt real quick, because I want to make sure people understood that. So what she's saying is the pectoralis muscle, the pec muscle, which is our chest muscle, because a lot of people don't know pec. They don't know what that is. And so the pec muscle is the chest muscle, right? And so what a lot of women are concerned about is if I don't wear a bra, my breasts are going to sag. But what this research said was that actually your muscles are weaker if you're wearing a bra, because then your muscles don't have to work hard. So by not wearing a bra, you're actually increasing your musculature in your pec and your back, or just your pec. Yeah, your pec and your back.
Yeah.
And then, if you really want to get rid of your wrinkles in your face, just stop wearing a bra and just pull it all down.
Oh, you guys always put funnies in. I thought I'd add one. So in May 1999, I'm just going to read this because I like to get the research correct. There was 30 medical research projects and scientific papers showing a link to fibrocystic breast disease. So, and cancer. So when they found 95% of women who removed their bra found an improvement. So, it's again blocking up the plumbing. We know that anything held. And if it's more about, we've talked about taking wires out and just wearing a bra, because sometimes it's more comfortable too. I mean, I'm wearing one today, but it's non-wire. So it's more about that, for us, it's about keeping flow going. And 2000, they published in the Chronobiology International, showing that bras actually decrease melatonin by 60%. So that's a powerful antioxidant that helps us with sleeping. So again, there's more research out there if you want to look. There is stuff proving that wearing a bra can inhibit the flow of lymphatics, which is what we're trying to say. And so it's more about when you get home from work, you can take the bra off and just let everything flow pretty much. And then that way we're trying to encourage breast health. You guys also talked about product toxicology. The breast tissue is a bit like what we call a Venus flytrap. You guys know what those are, right? The plants, and it sort of attracts estrogen. It's a kind of an absorption, this tissue that sits out. It's not muscle. And so what they found with that women that put on an average of 168 chemicals a day onto their body. Now, the scary stuff when it comes to breast health is they did a study in the Journal of Toxicology, and they found there was 1 million times more parabens in breast tissue when they dissected some breast tissue from mastectomies, and most of it was in the armpit. So again, that makes us go, well, the deodorants we're putting on under our armpits are probably a big part of that. So that's again backing up why you want to be very careful. I mean, we use the word aluminium, you use aluminum, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And so again, just, thinking about even the moisturizer that you put on your skin. I mean, they talk about it's safe, but they're only testing that little droplet.
Right.
But not putting it on you every day of every week, of every month, of every year. They've even done studies with far infrared cameras where they got people to put on their product that they would put on, and then they showered. And so then they studied them over 2 days, and that product was still sitting on the skin, even though they'd showered 2 days after. So it does actually sit on the skin and absorb. And then what's the one system that's going to deal with this to take it away?
Lymphatic system. I've heard something about that lymphatic system. And
yeah,
so
there's an amazing show that talks about it.
I heard something about that. And there's 168 chemicals on average that a person puts on their skin every day. I just want to make sure I heard that right. I think I've read that before, but I'm like, okay, law of averages right now. Michele, Desiree, and I might use no chemicals. Okay, let's say we use 10. So who's banking off there's somebody out there using 300 chemicals a day just to make us part of that average.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, you think about it. You get out of bed every morning, you go to the bathroom, by the time you wash hands, you can see how it all adds up. Yeah. That's why we have to really think about the cost to these kind of products. And, there's so many beautiful organic and natural products now. In New Zealand here, we have, I tell you what, over COVID, one of the things that we've seen the most demand is natural products have gone through the roof here, and they're making, huge sales internationally, because we've even got this amazing company that's worked out how to extract from seaweed, ironically, and some other products here in New Zealand to become the base of products. So instead of using the synthetic versions, it's actually all natural. So, you know, they're about to launch this big time internationally, which means a lot of companies have choice now. They don't have to put synthetic products in their, you know, top line products. And so, you know, for me, it's amazing what's going on out there.
Yeah.
So we have choice. In breast health, there is choice. I mean, emotionally, okay, you guys talked about that. Back in 1975, right, the Journal of Psychosomatic Research has even found that there's a clear correlation between positive breast cancer results and a woman's inability to release her emotions, especially deep-seated hurt and anger in her adult life. So for me, you know, there's a guy called Dr. Hammer. He was over in Europe, and he did a study on 40,000 different cancer patients, and he was looking at profiling emotionally. And even he found, and he makes statement around the different cancers, the emotional trauma that someone had gone through prior to their diagnosis. Now, it doesn't mean this is the cause of the cancer. It was just part of the problem. And women, especially left side, it was all to do with, now I have got my left side, it may look right on the screen, but this is my, sorry, personal joke to Kelly. So on the left side, it was all to do with either yourself, taking care of self, your mother or a child, and the right side was the male side, so that's the work or your partner and stuff. So they found that there was this relationship around profiling someone with breast cancer was these women that were absolutely beautiful people giving out so much and putting themselves second or third or fourth or fifth in the range of taking care. And so it does have profiling. So emotionally, it's right on the heart. So if we think about that, the heart of who we are, and it's about expressing the heart of what we want in life, but it's a lot about self-care. So for me, emotionally, I look at every aspect of breast cancer.
You know, I'm so curious, and we've not talked about this, so please be honest, both of you, but I have noticed such a difference with putting a man versus a female on the FLOWpresso and getting the attunement of the compressions right. This is and I'm really like extreme here, but I put a man on it and he's like, oh, my left toe is a little too tight. Could you loosen it? And then the next round, he's like, oh, it's now a little too tight or too loose. Can you tighten it? And I'm like, okay. And it's like on and off and on and off and all this precise. The women, I start them all at 3s. I put them on. And now all the women have the same answer first time around. Yeah, it's fine. I'm like, okay, so let's talk about how to actually care for yourself and how to communicate what that feels like. Because the women are just like, yep, I'll put up with anything. That's fine. The men are like, no, I need it to be exactly precise, because we as women, I think, have done a disservice to our men in our lives and to ourselves by caring too much for them and not enough for ourselves. And it's evident when I put them on FLOWpresso. Do you see the same difference?
Well, there was one lady that it just came to mind. She wanted to help me do everything. You know,
yes.
I wanted to get her in.
Wrap themselves.
I said, sweetie, I want you to receive. This is your time. And I want you to just be and let me take care of you. And she literally started crying. She said, I've never had anyone ever tell me that before.
Yeah, it is a reality, and this is what makes us even, you know, wanting to get the point across around, especially breast health, is just part of it. But there is a problem with women unable to connect to self. In other words, how does that feel to me as opposed to how do I think it feels? Mm-hmm. So there's a definitely disconnect. And, you know, one of the things, if we can just ask everyone in the world right now to ask yourself the question, how do I feel about it, as opposed to how do I think about it? Mm-hmm. Just that alone would change our behavior. Because, you know, I had a case last week, horrific marriage breakup, has lupus, has Raynaud's disease, so a number of different conditions, shaking constantly, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness. And we had to really work with her to, like the same, get to feel it as opposed to think it. And at the end of it, she just started crying, and we had her in our room to sort of go and sit and just be with it, because she had never felt so safe, and she had never had a feeling of being held to a point where she could let go. So, you know, this is the power of getting people to understand what they feel and what they need. And so many women will admit they're overwhelmed, but they're not doing the priority of, I need to put myself first. Because at the end of the day, who wants, there's a bit of a quote going around, if you don't put yourself first, then you're only giving everyone your second best. Like, you really want to be your best. And by putting yourself first, most importantly, you're taking care of self, and you're actually seeing value in who you are, but you're giving the optimal version of you rather than sort of a broken down, holding it together version.
And that's where we have to break through a lot of times, when they feel guilt because they're actually doing something for themselves. I hear that. I mean, I know you guys hear it all the time. They feel guilty. And that's where there has to be a breakthrough that comes through. This is no, you have to be the best version of you so that you can be the best version for everyone else.
And I think, Michele, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the brilliance of what she put together with FLOWpresso, because it forces women, men, everybody who gets in it, to center and to relax and to allow themselves to care for themselves. And unlike a massage where you feel like you have somebody in the room that you got to talk to and entertain, you're left in that room maybe with some sound in your, affirmations or something, but they're left alone to be cared for. My new thing is, we'll hug you, we'll love you, then you can leave. Because that's what FLOWpresso is. It's a big hug, and it feels like a lot of love, and then you can leave. And it's, this is huge for what's going on in the world right now, and for women and with breast health. And I so appreciate you bringing that up. And I just really want everybody to realize, for me, that's the brilliance of what FLOWpresso has done. It is that shift that Michele was talking about. It's that thing that forces people to go into that mode and allow them to have these breakdowns, to feel safe, to feel comforted, to feel loved, to feel hugged. Probably since we were born. I don't know as if any of us have really felt that, oh, I'm hugging you and I'm loving you and you can fall apart and it's okay and I've got you. That nurturing side that we are so good at giving. It's different to receive. Except for the three of us, we're all hooked on it. Trust me.
Well, and there's also, I think FLOWpresso for me, like the research that we've done over this last year and a half has certainly changed, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think we're giving someone an opportunity to find that themselves, to show that they can take care of themselves, that they've got this. And I think there's an element to that we, as practitioners, we're always trying to do. We're trying to help, we're trying to support, we're trying to facilitate change. But for some reason, when you're in that FLOWpresso, it's like you come back to who you are and you feel safe and trust you again. It's like, I've got this, I actually can do this. And I know what the steps are I need to do to start getting out of this. Whereas I think so many people, we're talking about this fight flight, but so many are frozen. They're just locked. They don't know. They know what the right thing is to do, but there's no clarity, or they don't feel safe, or they don't feel they can. And I think we just put them in that, and there's a moment of, wow, I've actually got this, I can. And that's hugely empowering for people when they feel they can actually make the next shift. And I think so much of our systems now disempower people, so they take away their ability to look after self. And I think that's what, all our research is changing in this unit because of that, of the outcomes. So, the whole thing started around lymphatics, as you know. I spent a lot of research looking at all the different technology out there. I bought stuff in, some crazy units over from China, and they all started falling apart, so I gave up on them. I started looking at the millimeter per mercury, which is the pressure that we are actually applying to the body. I spent quite a bit of time trying to find what research was actually out there that said that got the best outcome. Then I looked into far infrared and all the research and how that gets delivered. And then we looked at things like, for example, our unit has a back piece. No other unit has that, because so many people carry the tension in their shoulders and subscap. And that's a big issue for us when we were trying to get the fluid into the terminus. Like, if they're locked up and tense, we don't get drainage, right? Even down to the chip we've got in the unit, which is, the only one in the world. We've got proprietary to that. It's designed again to create, we did 2 years of study on it for just to see what it could do and couldn't do. And so again, we use that to sort of reduce, just to stop, help the energy flow through the cervical nodes, help the shoulders release again. So everything that's been done is very research focused. And then initially the studies were about, well, what does this do to people? Does it move their lymph? Does it? And so then that's when I started doing a lot of study for, we have a clinic here called the Centre for Health, and they Anna Rolliston is our, she's on our board. She's our research mentor, so she acts as our research advisor. And so I've worked with her for a number of years, and she asked me to do some research on her cardiac patients. So these were high stress, AFibs, atrial fibrillation, major issues. So we started to do a series of tests, and we were monitoring the outcomes, and all of a sudden we started to see people going from 2 to 3 hours of sleeping to all of a sudden 7 to 8 hours of sleeping, to improvement in lowering of blood pressure, to things like their fatigue levels improve, weight loss, all these things that were helpful, incredibly helpful for someone with a heart condition. So then I went into cancer and went, well, do they get the same results? What's happening for them? And then we saw the emotional releasing happening. So at about number 2 or 3 session, all of a sudden they were just letting go, like they were crying and breaking down, but not in a way that they couldn't manage. It was just that, oh my God, I'm letting go of something. And
a relief.
A relief, yeah. So, and if you look at anything about research now, they're saying that we hold everything at a cellular level, a memory. So we know it's in the fascia, like there's so much that can back all this up. So then I had to go back and go, what in the world's happening? Like, how do I justify this? Because, we've got lymphatics, we've got heat. Well, a whole lot of other models have that, but what are we doing that's different? So that's when we came across deep pressure therapy, which is used, the hug machine is used, or a blanket, heavy blanket. And we found that again, when you use that kind of therapy, you're actually encouraging all these feel-good hormones. So people are feeling safe and they're feeling held. And then the hugs, you just got to look at the research on hugs. I mean, holy moly, like there's just so much on it. So again, we went back to the drawing board, and the beginning of this year, I did a whole lot of research for New Zealand Police, just on after COVID. We started pre-COVID, and then as COVID lifted. So we were doing heart rate variability, sleep and fatigue questionnaires, so research questionnaires. We were monitoring blood pressure. And some of these guys have been through quite a serious incident here in New Zealand. And so they had more or less like a PTSD scenario. And we just watched them switch. So in heart rate variability, you have this spectrum where you can be sitting, parasympathetic, sympathetic, and their lying down was worse than their standing up in the stress response. And so you started to see going, wow, this is on the surface, they look super fit. They're ready to go, but on heart rate variability, so the way we are working out how your autonomic nervous, so sympathetic, fight, flight, parasympathetic, rest and digest. So we started to see that they were living in this constant stress response. And so when we did one session, things started to shift. When we actually followed up on the morning of the third session, we actually saw this whole switch happen, and we started to nickname it, we were blowing the fuse. Because what we found is that all of a sudden the body just went, okay, hang on. I've been doing this new normal with my body. I don't want to do this anymore. This is not okay. This is not normal. This over here is normal, where I could regulate, where I knew when it was lying down, when it was standing up. And Kelly, you're probably a lot more educated in this area than I am. And I know you're going to be teaching on it soon, so I'm really excited. So, but the thing is we started to see that shift, and that's when the recovery changed. That's when we saw the change to their blood pressure. That's when they were sleeping better. I mean, these guys, like, they're big, and they were like, oh my God, I'm sleeping like a baby, So then we actually, we're now actually on site here in New Zealand in 2 big locations and police stations, and we're running through like 50 staff every sort of 6 to 7 weeks. Say that right. And so we've got a massive amount of data being collected now on that and the outcomes of this sleep and fatigue and recovery, and the feedback's been phenomenal. We're just it's just some of these guys, you know, they're going, one guy sent me an email the other day, goes, oh my God, this is like the best thing ever. You've done it. This is phenomenal. Like, and you know, these are guys that don't usually attend regular sort of sessions on any level if you talk to their, you know, to their wellness team. So, and then we got awarded a research fellowship grant. So we are, what that means for us is the government is funding us to have a full-time student starting next year. So we go for ethics approval at the end of this year. And so we're going to be studying even more on the effects of the parasympathetic response and sleep and fatigue, because I want to validate how important this unit is for that. And this is what differentiates us from everything else in the world right now that's available. And you know, for me, it's more about, let's prove what's being done here. Let's show the difference it's making in the world, because we're seeing, I always say, like the steak knives of the session. So we improve your sleep, your regulation, we get your fatigue down, but then we see all these incredible health responses that, you know, sometimes even I'm sitting there going, I don't know how we did that one. That's great. But think about it. If I can help someone get back to a normal physiology state where their body actually understands when it's time to sleep, rest, digest, repair, then we've kind of reset them to actually start the process. So that's a lot of what we're doing here. We're really trying to prove why this unit is making a difference. And I haven't even discussed what we're doing around the emotional. We're looking at that from a PTSD, trauma. We're studying some of those at the moment. Some preliminary data is coming out, but we just like to wait till we've got something a bit more profound, and then we hope to do more studies on that next year.
So it just to summarize, you basically looked at everything on the market and said, how can I make it better, faster, and stronger for the lymph? But then as a side effect of doing that, accidentally, we discovered that you're putting people into deep parasympathetic states, which is the rest heal mode. And the lymph became like a secondary thing that it was like, oh, that's great. It moves the lymph too, but that's not its primary purpose. The primary purpose is to get somebody into this deep parasympathetic state. And I know other people that have been in all the other lymph machine suits that are out there. And okay, so Dr. Carcetti worked for us for many years. You know, Dr. Carcetti, he came a year. I've been saying to him, please come and do the suit. Please come and do FLOWpresso. He didn't do it until Friday. Friday, he got out of the suit and he had this look on his face. I go, what? He goes, you know, the guy across the street who has a cryo center, he has a leg only suit, and very common name. A lot of athletes use it. And he goes, I thought they were the same thing. You kept telling me they weren't the same thing. They're not even close to being the same thing. This was completely different. I want to come back next week and do it. And I think for me, I mean, the proof is always in how it makes you feel. Like I too, when I first saw it, I don't know about you, Michele, but when I first saw the suits that she was creating, I was like, that looks like a trap for a person who is like claustrophobic nightmare. Are you kidding me? And now I can't get out of it. Like I can't, like, I'm really excited we're doing this. And as soon as this is off, I'm doing my FLOWpresso. Like I can't wait to do it.
Claustrophobia. That's once they get in it, that's not even in their vocabulary.
Yes, I agree.
Once that it starts doing that wonderful compression and they start to feel the heat, they're like, what claustrophobic? I don't have that anymore. I don't know what you're talking about. So
yeah. It's
and
really,
it's about balance too, right? When people are in that sympathetic state, there's an imbalance going on, and that's when we have a lot of disease occur, and we need that balance in our life, in every area of our life. And when we have that balance, that's when we can truly begin to live a healthy lifestyle.
absolutely. Yeah, and so I hope everybody understands all the research that Desiree's done to create it and is continuing to do the research to verify what we're seeing, because that's kind of what's happening. We're like, okay, anybody know why that happened? Anybody know why? And the reality is the answer is that the body healed itself and we look good. Thanks, Des, for making us look so good. We look really good, but it really has to do with the body healing itself. And I agree, as a practitioner, we're always looking for how can I help that person? What tool can I give them? And this has been such a gift to be able to give them this tool, let them feel their own guidance, let them start to feel that balance Michele was just talking about, and let them start to guide themselves through their lives. And they guide right back to FLOWpresso because they know that that is the memory that they want to keep getting back to is, oh, I want to remember how that felt. That felt so good. And they train themselves to feel that good all the time.
Okay, so one question that I've had is, well, how does it affect your breast health?
So we can adjust the abdomen piece and lift it up if we really wanted to be very specific. But for me, it's actually releasing the diaphragm.
Yes.
So when we release the diaphragm, because so many women do find that pressure in that lower part of the rib area quite scary to start with because there's this pressure holding. And we even found it in the police, ironically, when we do the mode 2, the sports one. They wear really heavy gear, like their vests. And so again, that intercostal muscles are being really restricted. And so you haven't got the expansion and movement of the diaphragm. So again, we know with breast health, well, with any health issue, breathing is paramount. And a lot of us shallow breathe. Actually, we over breathe, a lot of us. We sort of short breaths and over breathe, we get too much oxygen. So opening up by putting the pressure on the diaphragm, we're actually starting to get some resistance, or we call it isometrics, or resistance to be able to loosen that off. So all of a sudden, the body will create a deeper breath, which is, you know, that old saying, I must increase my breasts as kids.
Yes.
Breasts. So, you know, the idea is, yeah, to release off that.
See, I'm glad you said that because that's where I was hoping you would go with that, is the breath.
Well, you want those puppies to move, you got to breathe deeply. So, you know, and that goes with men as well. You know, breast cancer's not just female.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So no, I feel very, very blessed to have this out in the community. Was a lot of work, and but you know, I can honestly say with my hand on my heart, and I will, that, you know, not a day goes by where I don't shed a small tear in some of the responses we're getting. And I just, if my gift to the world is to allow people to come back to themselves and believe that they can shift and change, and bringing their system back to a new normal, what is new normal for them. And I'm just, you know, I'm going to die one happy woman.
Well, we are very, very appreciative of everything you put together, and we're happy to be part of your team.
That's right.
How are you? Great team. Oh, sorry. God, here we go again.
They're the new Charlie's Angels, showing you exactly where the things you got to go get are, and we're going to love you, hug you, and leave you.
Thank you.
And sleep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had someone the other day ask me, say to me, oh, so do I, you know, I think I'm paying you to sleep. And I went, yeah, but it's a good sleep, right? So, you know.
Yeah, I get that a lot too. They're like, wow, this is the best nap I've had all day. I just came in to sleep. Yep, good job. So we are signing off on the Flow Show. We thank you all so much. Make sure to share the Flow Show with everybody. Get them to understand how their lymph works, and tie it off in the bow with Desiree De Spong, with the research, that everything that Michele and I have talked about in this Flow Show is absolutely documented. It's out there. If you need more access to more research, you can probably find it on brmi.online. You can research, you can access any of us. There's websites available from lymph-ology to flowpresso.co.nz. And what other websites do we want to give them, Michele?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Yours and mine, not Med, Train Adulty. I mean, you know.
Yes.
We have information.
We have lots of information for you, and truly from our heart to yours, we want you to understand that you got this. The flow is within you, and you can flow with the rest of us. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.